Hey guys, Amanda here. I'm here to do another NAMI Principles of Support video. This is number 6, and it is We Reject Stigma and Do Not Tolerate Discrimination. And I think it kind of says it right there. Reject stigma and do not tolerate discrimination. Of course, it's a lot easier to say than to do. However, I think it's important for us as a community to fight for ourselves, to stand up for ourselves, have a voice, because not many people are going to do that for you unless you have an advocate. And there's so much stigma in the world, just with mental illness alone. I'm just going to see if I can fix this a little bit. Okay. There's so much stigma in the world with mental illness and discrimination, and it's a very hard thing to deal with if it's right in your face all the time. I think the two main places that people actually three places where people probably experience this more than other situations. Not to say that those situations don't have this going on, but I think these are the main ones. Schools, like colleges and stuff, the workplace, and at home. There's been a lot of people who have made videos talking about how their family members don't understand, they don't believe that there's this going on and all that stuff, so they get treated in a certain way, things are said to them, and it just makes the situation worse. And then there's in college where you could disclose that information and potentially have that backlash at you, a lot, as well as in the workplace. And people have made videos on this with their own experience, that they disclosed it and then a few months later they were fired, and they've been at a job for years just because they disclosed that information, and they needed accommodations for it. You can't make someone think a certain way or act a certain way that you want them to, but you can control what you do. You can take a stand for yourself. Even if you lose your job, say you did lose your job. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to deal with it, no, it's too much stress, and I understand things being too stressful and stuff like that, because if you're in the middle of like a depression, you're not going to want to stand up for yourself, and I completely understand that. However, I think if you can have a voice, whether it's making YouTube videos like me and many others, having a written blog and documenting your experiences, participating in a documentary about mental illness, being someone's advocate, giving talks, things like that. I think this all helps to kind of lessen the stigma, because I think a lot of people who discriminate and contribute to stigma with mental illness aren't educated. I think a lot of it comes out of fear and not having the knowledge and understanding of what's going on. So it's kind of like, oh, that person has a mental illness, I don't want to get near them, I might catch it or something. Like they used to think with AIDS, that you could just stand next to somebody and you'd catch it. Which that, it's not like that, but it's kind of like people kind of act that way sometimes. Only because they just don't have the knowledge and the understanding to really understand what's going on with someone who suffers from a mental illness. A big stigma, as an example, with mental illness is borderline personality disorder, BPD, where people who engage in cutting, burning, and that sort of thing are doing it for attention. And they're not doing it for attention. That is their coping skill. It's not a healthy coping skill, but that is what they do to deal with very intense emotions or to feel something. That has nothing to do with other people giving them attention or being manipulative or anything like that. They're not trying to be manipulative. Maybe it seems that way to the onlooker, but that is not the goal. It has nothing to do with that. And if you read about BPD and you learn about it and you talk to people with it, you'll understand a bit more, and have a different perspective than just thinking, oh, well, that person did that and I saw them do it and then they got attention and they're manipulative. It's really not like that. But that's just an example of stigma against, a certain group of people because of this behavior, that they engage in. And that's because they don't have the knowledge and the understanding. And I think fear plays a part in that. I think having a voice, at least trying to, whether you're making videos and whatever it is, I think that's going to be pretty profound in years to come. It might not have a huge impact today or tomorrow, but in 50 years, 100 years, 200 years from now, when people, if they haven't found a way to kind of help with mental illness, and it's still like it is today where people suffer and have to take medication and things like that, I think if you keep making those steps and you keep trying to add education and knowledge about this stuff, I think years and years to come, things will start to change. Things don't change overnight. And I think we, like people that came before us, in different centuries and stuff that suffered and the way things were dealt with, we've come a long way. Might not be where people want us to be in terms of getting help and how the system works and all that, but from what it used to be like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, there have been tremendous strides. And I think we need to remember that things don't happen overnight. It takes time to change things. And I think if we have that voice, the stigma might not go away completely, but it might lessen the stigma. And the more educated people are, the less they kind of judge you in that negative way. Obviously not everyone's going to think that way. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But I think those baby steps will help in the long term when my grandkids, my great-grandkids, if they suffer from mental illness, it might be a little easier for them to deal with it than it is today, than it was 100 years ago, so on and so forth. Discrimination. That happens a lot everywhere with pretty much everything and everybody. I don't think there's one person on this earth that hasn't ever been discriminated against. Maybe not to their face, but people might discriminate against this particular person because of this or whatever. It happens. But again, standing up for yourself, not taking things lying down, just finding that inner strength and believing in yourself, even if it's small little baby steps, I think it'll help, Of course, I think stigma and discrimination are always going to be around, but I feel that if we talk about it and research is done on it more and more, and they find out more about the brain and how emotions work and all that stuff, it'll just lead us closer to having less discrimination. It could make more discrimination. It could go either way. But for those who engage in the education of it and really learn about it and really listen to people and not just judge them based on something they saw in a movie or television or the media, then maybe in a small way that'll change. Because a lot of people tend to watch a movie or TV or watch the media, and it portrays people with mental illness as these violent criminals, and that's really not accurate. Some people can be violent and suffer from mental illness, but most people who are violent are not sufferers of mental illness. Usually people with mental illness are the victims of violence because people don't understand. There's like a fear. They don't understand, and they get scared, and their reaction is to beat you up or kill you or whatever. It's not very helpful, but it does happen. And they've done studies on this. You can look it up. Statistics and stuff, you can look that up if you really want to know about that. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is to just have faith in yourself. And when you are able, stand up for yourself. Have a voice. Even if it's a written blog, YouTube video, whatever. Just taking those little steps, I think, will lead in a positive direction to kind of take away from as much stigma and discrimination. And over the years, the stigma and discrimination has become a little less and less, but it's it's kind of hard when you see celebrities in the news and they're doing all this crazy stuff, and then they say, oh, they have a mental illness. It kind of makes it hard for people to kind of see that that's not the only aspect of them. That's just what the media is focusing on, but they're not focusing on all the other parts of what's going on with that person and stuff like that. So you don't see the whole picture. You just see what they portray to you. So sometimes it's hard to kind of, like, you see this and you think, oh, that must be true because they're showing it on TV. Don't judge a book by its cover, and don't judge a TV by its screen, because most of the stuff you see on TV isn't true. Some of it is, and some have truth in it that they exaggerate, but it doesn't mean that the whole entire thing is true. And it doesn't mean that you're seeing the whole entire picture and that you know what's going on in that person's life and what's contributing to all the stuff and all the chaos and whatnot. So, I think it's good to try to get out that information. And if you don't suffer from mental illness and you're seeing this and you have this idea, go to the library. Go to a college campus and see if they have public access to take out books, and go check out a book on mental illness, on whatever it is that you want to learn about. Go onto PubMed or something, or some sort of website where you can download journal articles, like peer-reviewed and things like that, like research and all that kind of stuff. Talk to people. Go to a meeting where mental health, where people who suffer from mental illness go to talk, because they do have ones that are for family and friends who might not suffer. And then you can hear about other, people's experiences and what they go through, and hear it firsthand, without TV and all that stuff interfering. You're hearing it firsthand. So then you can get a better idea of what it's like for us who suffer, I think it's really hard suffering from mental illness, because a lot of this does go on, and I think it'll always continue to go on. But I think over time it might not be as great as it is now. I mean, it could go either way. It's just my opinion. It's just what I think, But just stay strong and do what you can to help yourself, whether it's family, work, school, what have you. Don't let people get you down. find a way, if you can, to beat the odds. A lot of people do it in other situations, maybe not mental illness, but sometimes people get discriminated against and then they prove them wrong. And that makes them pioneers now, doesn't it? So maybe we can all be pioneers for future generations, so they don't have to deal with what we've had to deal with. Alright, well, that's my take on it. It's just my opinion, of course. Have your own opinion. If you want to make your own video, go right ahead. Yeah, so I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!